I keep picturing all these little kids playing some game in this big field of rye and all. Thousands of little kids. And nobody's around. Nobody big, I mean. Except me. And I'm standing on the edge of some crazy cliff. What I have to do, I have to catch everybody if they start to go over the cliff. I mean, if they're running and they don't look where they're going, I have to come out from somewhere and catch them. That's all I do all day. I just be the catcher in the rye and all. I know it's crazy, but that's the only thing I'd really like to be. I know it's crazy. Hello and welcome to The Black Ponderer. I'm Neil Trotter. Today, we're going to be talking about my favorite novel of all time. That is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Now, the protagonist of the story, Holden Caulfield, he just wants to live in a world where he can be true to himself. And he also wants to live in a world where other people are true to each other. Now, the conflict of the story is that that's not the case. People aren't true to each other. And when he's trying to be true to other people, he experiences problems. And personally, I think him coming to terms with that reality is what this book is really all about. Now, this is one of those controversial books, The Catcher in the Rye. I mean, it does have a lot of curse words. It does have some language that, depending on what you believe in, you might consider blasphemous or sacrilegious. And it also has sexual themes in there. There's some sexual situations going on in there. But in today's standards, in the year 2015, I mean, at best, that would be PG-13, right? Appropriate for an age 13 and over. A lot of it actually is pretty tame in today's standards. But when I say controversial, when I mean that when we're talking about literature, I mean that there's a lot of people that really hate The Catcher in the Rye, and there's a lot of people that really love The Catcher in the Rye. And there's very few people who are in the middle. I think nowadays, though, you're finally starting to see people talk about The Catcher in the Rye and be more in the middle with it. I am seeing that more often. People are saying like, well, the thing is, this book really wasn't written for me, but I could see why it was so popular, why it resonated with so many people, why so many people like it. But, it's not really a book for me. I'm starting to see that talk now. But when people really talk about The Catcher in the Rye, I'm not hearing a lot about the philosophy behind the book. And I think there is a really strong philosophy behind this book. And I think that's why it resonates so strongly with people. Because what J.D. Salinger is trying to say philosophically, a lot of people are able to relate to that. So what is the philosophy behind The Catcher in the Rye? Well, this being a philosophy channel, The Black Ponderer, that's what we're going to talk about. Now, this book has a lot of themes that are very popular. A lot of people know the themes behind this book, right? Mostly teenage angst, right? I mean, that's really the most talked about theme in this book. There's also the theme of loss of innocence, right? And there's the theme of isolation. That's another big theme in this book. There's all these themes that are very popular and people know it well, and that's why it's taught in schools and things like that. And those themes are definitely a big part of the book, that's for sure. But I want to talk about a theme that kind of touches all of those things. That's kind of like the overall arching theme of the book, and that is, in this world, people are not true to themselves. And why that's a problem. What do we lose when people are not true to themselves? I see it as this whole idea, again, we go back, if we're talking about the philosophy, this whole idea of this ego. I think one time it was Chris Rock, he joked and said, when you meet some people, when you're talking to those people, you're not really talking to the actual person, you're just talking to their representative, right? And that's really what The Catcher in the Rye is trying to home in on. The fact that when you're trying to have meaningful conversations with people, or when you're trying to really talk to somebody, you're not really talking to somebody, you're talking to their representative. You're talking to their ego. People aren't real. It's hard for somebody to keep it real in this world, to be sincere, to be genuine. And that's really frustrating. And Holden Caulfield is expressing this frustration. Now, a lot of people don't like this book, basically because of the protagonist and his attitude, right? A lot of people say he's whiny, that he's pretty self-absorbed, and those things are all true. Those are definitely true. He is pretty damn whiny, I'll give you that. And he is pretty self-absorbed, I'll tell you that too, He might not be the most likable person in the world, but he's giving you his true self. He's letting you know who he really is. He's breaking it down for you truthfully. I mean, there's no ego with him. He's not trying to hide that part of him. And that's why I like the book, because Holden is keeping it real. He's keeping it real about what he thinks about other people and about himself. And sometimes that might come across as unlikable traits. But the fact that he keeps it real makes the book powerful. Let me give you some quotes. So these are examples. Throughout the whole book, Holden Caulfield, he's just making observations about things, and he's keeping it real with you. And a lot of people don't want to hear that realness. A lot of people think it's rude and it's whiny and it's self-absorbed. Let me give you some examples of that, why I feel a lot of people can't relate to Holden Caulfield. A lot of people think he's kind of a jerk sometimes. Let me provide you with this quote. So Holden, just to give you like a little bit of context, I'm not trying to give you the whole plot, but he just goes to this bar, this lounge, that he knows well as he's in New York City, and this is a well-known lounge bar place. And he just comes in there and he's talking about this piano player in the lounge. This is what he says. Even though it was so late, old Ernie was jam-packed, mostly with prep school jerks and college jerks. Almost every damn school in the world gets out earlier for Christmas vacation than the schools I go to. You could hardly check your coat. It was so crowded. It was pretty quiet though, because Ernie was playing the piano. It was supposed to be something holy, for God's sake, when he sat down at the piano. Nobody's that good. About 3 couples beside me were waiting for tables, and they were all shoving and standing on tiptoes to get a look at old Ernie while he played. He had a big damn mirror in front of the piano with this big spotlight on him so that everybody could watch his face while he played. You couldn't see his fingers while he played, just his big old face. Big deal. I'm not too sure what the name of the song was that he was playing when I came in. But whatever it was, he was really stinking it up. He was putting all these dumb show-offy ripples in the high notes and a lot of other very tricky stuff that gives me a pain in the ass. You should have heard the crowd, though, when he was finished. You would have puked. They went mad. They were exactly the same morons that laugh like hyenas in the movies at stuff that isn't funny. I swear to God, if I were a piano player or an actor or something and all those dopes thought I was terrific, I'd hate it. I wouldn't even want them to clap for me. People always clap for the wrong things. If I were a piano player, I'd play it in the goddamn closet. Now, the way Holden said that might have came across as a little rude, right? But he's just commenting on the fact that people tend to over-appreciate people for no good reason. When they clap for people, when they're showing their applause, it's more so them trying to put on a show rather than actually showing their appreciation for somebody. And the fact that some people kind of overplay their talents, right? Let's continue. Let's continue these quotes where you might think he's a jerk. Holden Caulfield. I was surrounded by jerks. I'm not kidding. At this other tiny table right to my left, practically on top of me, there was this funny looking guy and this funny looking girl. They were around my age, or maybe just a little older. It was funny. You could see they were being careful as hell not to drink up the minimum too fast. I listened to their conversation for a while, because I didn't have anything else to do. He was telling her about some pro football game he'd seen that afternoon. He gave her every single goddamn play in the whole game. I'm not kidding. He was the most boring guy I ever listened to. And you could tell his date wasn't even interested in the goddamn game. But she was even funnier looking than he was. So I guess she had to listen. Real ugly girls have it tough. I feel sorry for them sometimes. Sometimes I can't even look at them. Especially if they're with some dopey guy that's telling them all about a goddamn football game. On my right, the conversation was even worse though. On my right, there was this very Joe Yale looking guy in a gray flannel suit and one of those flitty looking tatter sale vests. All those Ivy League bastards look alike. My father wants me to go to Yale or maybe Princeton, but I swear I wouldn't go to one of those Ivy League colleges if I was dying, for God's sake. Anyway, this Joe Yale looking guy had a terrific looking girl with him. Boy was she good looking. But you should have heard the conversation they were having. In the first place, they were both slightly crocked. What he was doing, he was giving her a feel under the table, and at the same time telling her all about some guy in his dorm that had eaten a whole bottle of aspirin and nearly committed suicide. His date kept saying to him, "How horrible." Don't, darling. Please don't. Not here. Imagine giving somebody a feel telling them about a guy committing suicide at the same time. They killed me. He's just keeping it real, Holden. He's just letting you know what's up now. It's that maybe that's a little whiny. Yeah, I mean, should he really be observing other people's conversations, eavesdropping like that? No. But is he really in a position to say who's an ugly girl and who's not an ugly girl and how he feels sorry for ugly girls? That's pretty rude and self-absorbed. It's true. But he's just making this observation. He's seeing these people not being genuine as he's commenting on that guy who's filling up that girl while he's talking about to some dude he knows who almost committed suicide. He's Holden's frustrated that the guy really doesn't really give a damn about the suicidal guy he knows. He's just trying to score sensitive points with the girl. And that's not very sincere, is it? That's not very genuine. And Holden's frustrated about that. And I think that's a real world observation. A lot of people do that. A lot of people talk about things and they really don't care about what they're actually talking about. They have another agenda. People are always putting on this show, right? They're not keeping it real. And Holden's calling people out on that. Let's keep it going. Here's another quote. So here Holden's at his little sister's school. He wants to leave his little sister a note. So this is what happens. While I was sitting down, I saw something that drove me crazy. Somebody written "fuck you" on the wall. It drove me damn near crazy. I thought how Phoebe and all the other little kids would see it and how they'd wonder what the hell it meant, and then finally some dirty kid would tell them all cockeyed naturally what it meant and how they'd all think about it and maybe even worry about it for a couple of days. I kept wanting to kill whoever had written it. I figured it was some perverted bum that sneaked into school late at night to take a leak or something and then wrote it on the wall. I kept picturing myself catching him at it and how I'd smash his head on the stone steps till he was good and goddamn dead and bloody. But I knew too, I wouldn't have the guts to do it. I knew that. That made me even more depressed. I hardly even had the guts to rub it off the wall with my hand, if you want to know the truth. I was afraid some teacher would catch me rubbing it off and would think I'd written it. But I rubbed it off anyway, finally. Then I went up to the principal's office. Just one paragraph after, this is what he says. I went down by a different staircase and I saw another "fuck you" on the wall. I tried to rub it off with my hand again, but this one was scratched on with a knife or something. It wouldn't have come off. It's hopeless anyway. If you had a million years to do it in, you couldn't rub out even half the "fuck you" signs in the world. It's impossible. Then Holden goes to a museum, right, to meet his sister. And guess what happens? Here's what he says. I was the only one left in the tomb then. I sort of liked it in a way. It was so nice and peaceful. Then all of a sudden, you never guess what I saw on the wall. Another "fuck you." It was written with a red crayon or something, right under the glass part of the wall, under the stones. That's the whole trouble. You can't ever find a place that's nice and peaceful because there isn't any. You may think there is, but once you get there, when you're not looking, somebody will sneak up and write "fuck you" right under your nose. Try it sometime. I think even if I ever die and they stick me in a cemetery and I have a tombstone and all, it'll say Holden Caulfield on it. And then what year I was born and what year I died. And then right under that, it'll say "fuck you." I'm positive, in fact. And again, he's just keeping it real with you. He's letting you know. He's like, damn, all I want is a place to relax or just some sort of peaceful area. And it just ain't happening because everywhere I turn, I see the F you all over the place. Or more generally speaking, I just see situations where people are just projecting their ego out in the world. And there's no sincerity, there's no genuineness in the world. This is the philosophy that I'm trying to get at. Listen to this quote. So Holden, this time he's talking to these two nuns at a diner, and he's having a really nice conversation with them. And this is what's going on in the man's head after he had the conversation with the nuns. I said I'd enjoy talking to them a lot too. I meant it too. I'd have enjoyed it even more though, I think, if I hadn't been sort of afraid the whole time I was talking to them that they'd all of a sudden try to find out if I was a Catholic. Catholics are always trying to find out if you're a Catholic. It happens to me a lot. I know partly because my last name is Irish and most people of Irish descent are Catholics. As a matter of fact, my father was a Catholic once. He quit though when he married my mother. But Catholics are always trying to find out if you're a Catholic, even if they don't know your last name. I knew this one Catholic boy, Louis Shaney, when I was at the Wooten School. He was the first boy I ever met there. He and I were sitting in the first 2 chairs outside the goddamn infirmary the day school opened, waiting for our physicals, and we sort of struck up this conversation about tennis. He was quite interested in tennis, and so was I. He told me he went to the Nationals at Forest Hills every summer, and I told him I did too. And then we talked about certain hotshot tennis players for quite a while. He knew quite a lot about tennis for a kid his age. He really did. Then after a while, right in the middle of the goddamn conversation, he asked me, "Do you happen to notice where the Catholic church is in town by any chance?" The thing was, you could tell by the way he asked me that he was trying to find out if I was a Catholic. He really was. Not that he was prejudiced or anything, but he just wanted to know. He was enjoying the conversation about tennis and all, but you could tell he would have enjoyed it more if I was a Catholic and all. That kind of stuff drives me crazy. I'm not saying it ruined our conversation or anything. It didn't. But it sure as hell didn't do it any good. That's why I was glad those 2 nuns didn't ask me if I was a Catholic. It wouldn't have spoiled the conversation if they had, but it would have been different probably. I'm not saying I blame Catholics. I don't. I'd be the same way, probably if I was a Catholic. All I'm saying is that it's no good for a nice conversation. That's all I'm saying. And here Holden's just saying like, look, can't we just have a decent conversation? Can't we just be sincere and keep it real and be genuine? Why do we have to know if we're Catholic or not? Or just generally speaking, why does the conversation have to be better whether we're Catholic or atheist or Protestant or Hindu or Muslim or black or white or Asian or gay or bisexual or Democrat or Republican or from the Tea Party or from the Green Party or European or from Mexico or from Canada? What does it matter? Can't we just sit down and have a sincere, genuine conversation without having to worry about all that? Without all that stuff that has to do with ego? And can't we just have a genuine conversation and keep it real without all that? And the answer to that question is no. Not in this world. In this world, you can't have genuine conversations like that without that person being able to know that being with you will boost their ego even further. Will make their representation of themselves that much more greater. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm getting at? The philosophy behind The Catcher in the Rye is that in this world, it's hard to get past people's egos. It's hard to pass the projection of themselves that people present. Sincerity, genuineness is lost in this world because people are too busy portraying a version of themselves that they think is more acceptable in society, but takes away the truth behind who they really are. It's incredibly difficult in this world to really get to know truly who somebody is. And that's what Holden is calling out in The Catcher in the Rye. So if you've never read this book before, give it a chance. You never know, you might like it. Whether or not you like the character Holden, I mean, he's not like a sexy gentleman. I mean, he's not a sweet, lovable little wizard like Harry Potter is. And he's not like a sexy, intriguing, enigmatic vampire like Edward from Twilight. But he's talking about stuff that's real. He's keeping it real. Yes, he whines a lot. And he's pretty self-absorbed, that's true. He has character flaws, but that doesn't mean you can't completely relate to the guy. I think some things the guy is saying, anybody really could relate to. Anyway, you've been watching The Black Ponder. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time for more philosophical thought.